Alright, this video is going to talk about finding or using the U.S. rule with interest on a loan. Basically, the U.S. rule just states that if you pay a partial payment, the payment has to pay off any accrued interest first, and then it will start paying off the principal that's been earned or that you've borrowed. So for our first example, it says you have $10,000 due on a 60-day loan at a rate of 6%. You make a payment after 20 days of $2,000. What is the final adjusted balance? So it's not the full payment, but you do make a partial payment. Now that $2,000 has to go towards paying the interest first, and then it will pay on the principal. So what we want to do is we want to basically lay out the problem and then find the interest that's going to happen on the first 20 days when they make that $2,000 payment. From there, we'll be able to then subtract the $2,000 and then use that to find the interest on the remaining 40 days left on the loan. So I'm going to lay out a little timeline here, and we basically have $10,000 due, and then we have 20 days, and then there's a $2,000 payment. And then the loan, the entirety of the loan is due after 60 days. So this first span is 20 days, and then the remaining span from the 20 days on to 60 days is 40 days. And we're going to have to know those two numbers when we're figuring out interest. Because the interest that accrues on the first 20 days is going to be, then we're going to take that $2,000 away, and our principal is going to be different that we use on the next 40 days. So we're going to start out with our interest formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. So if we fill in these numbers, 10,000, I'm working on the first 20 days before the partial payment, times the rate of 6%, times the time of 20 days out of 360. And again, we're using ordinary interest here because it's the most commonly used. When I multiply that out, I end up getting $33.33. Now that represents the interest, so the maturity value after 20 days is equal to $10,033.33. Okay, so that represents our amount before the partial payment, but that includes the principal and the interest on there. So what I want to do is I want to take away that $2,000 from this amount. So if I minus $2,000, I end up with $8,033.33. Now that principal is what we're going to use in the next part, because now we've paid off the interest, $33.33, and we paid off part of the principal. So now our new principal is $8,033.33. So now I'm going to use the interest formula again for the next 40 days of the loan. So interest equals principal times rate times time. And this time our principal is going to be that new number we came up with, $8,033.33, times our rate of 0.6, times our time, which now is the 40 days out of 360. When I multiply all of that out, I get interest of $53.56. So if I add that to my principal that I started with in this problem, which would be $8,033.33, I end up with $8,086.89. And that is the adjusted balance that is due at the 60 days. Okay, now on this next problem, it's a little bit more complex, only because we added another payment. So there's two partial payments here. It says you have $18,000 due on a 90-day loan at a rate of 12%. You make a payment after 60 days of $4,000 and another payment after 70 days of $1,000. What is the final adjusted balance? So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our timeline, and we start out with $18,000, and it says you make a partial payment after 60 days, so 60 days, and that's $4,000. Okay, now the 70 days is after the original start date, so that's going to be 10 days after the 60 days, and then we make a payment of $1,000. Okay, so there's a span of 10 days in there between those two payments. So again, if I figure out my interest for the first part of this, which is the 60 days, this is 6, so interest equals principal times rate times time, or 18,000 times the rate, which is 12%, 0.12 is a decimal, times the time, which is 60 out of 360. When I multiply all that out, I end up with $360. Alright, now the $360 is the interest on the first 60 days. So my what's owed then at 60 days is $18,360. And now I want to take away that $4,000 payment. So I'm going to minus the $4,000, and that comes out to $14,360. So that's after the first payment, how much is remaining. Now we need to find interest again, so on the next 10 days, so that's going to be now our principal times rate times time, and we're going to fill in the principal now of $14,360 times the rate, 0.12, times time, but this is now only 10 days, so 10 days out of 360. When I multiply that out, I get $47.87, which then if I add to the 14,360, I get $14,407.87 minus $1,000 for that second payment, and I have $13,407.87. That is what is owed at the end of the 70 days after the $1,000 payment. Now we still have to figure out what's due at the end. So after the whole 90 days, we have one more interest payment to figure out. So principal times rate times time, $13,407.87 times 0.12 times now the remaining time. So from 70 to 90 days is 20 days, so 20 over 360. And when I do that, I get $89. Oops, kind of scribbled together there. $89.39, which if I add to the $13,407.87, I end up with a final adjusted balance of $13,497.26. So this one was obviously a lot, one more step, one more payment involved, but still the same process. We just find the interest on the first part before that payment's made, add it to our principal, subtract the payment, and then use that amount as our principal for our next amount of days, whatever that might be. Hope this helps.